my name is Lola. Welcome to my corner. Today we will be talking about Bride by Ailey Hazelwood. To answer the question if it is another hit from Ailey Hazelwood or just a very, very goofy werewolf romance. So, to talk about this book, I wanted to talk about the good and the bad parts, like the parts that I know a lot of people like and the parts that a lot of people don't like. And one of the things that I know that a lot of people talked about is the spelling of the word vampire in this book because it's vampire with an Y. And a lot of people hated it. I've read people say that like they couldn't even start the book because they felt that it was so weird. Um, I wanted to bring like a new perspective to it because I feel like the general thing is that people think vampires with Y is like very weird and it just like it feels like it's wrong. It felt like she was misspelling and like why wouldn't she just use the regular vampire word that everyone uses? And the word vampire actually in its orange is spelled with an Y because it's a Slavic word. So I did some research and I found out an article about it that I will be linking in the description if you want to know more. But it not only talks about the word vampire, but it also talks about the creatures vampire and how they had like two different oranges and meanings and how like when they came to more of the west side, how they became like a different thing, like how their meaning was corrupted and made something different. But I feel like the reason Ellie Hazelwood chose to give us a new spelling of the word vampire is because we are so used to vampires. Like, there's vampires everywhere. We know, like, hundreds and hundreds of vampire stories. And I don't even need to mention, like, Twilight, because we have a bunch of them. We have lots and lots and lots of vampire stories. And every one of them is different, right? So, like, if you watch Vampire Diaries, they technically die in the sun, but they have a special ring that they don't die in the sun. And if you watch Twilight, they don't even die in the sun; they just like sparkle, and but they can't do it. And there's a vampire council, so there's so many different pieces of vampire lore, like in just like pop culture in general. I'm not even talking about books because if I talk about books, it gets even more complex. But I felt like the reason why Ellie chose that was because she wanted to make sure that we knew that these were not like our common trope vampires. She wanted to create a whole world around them and like a lots of new things, which also was something that people didn't like because I've heard many people say that this book has a lot of world building and that they felt like, oh, it was too much. Like, get me to the story already. And I understand. I don't disagree with that part. But in terms of like the spelling of the word vampire, I want to object because it didn't felt weird to me. It felt like I was reading, about like different types of vampires. So I know this is a like a negative thing about this book. I felt like maybe she would have taken less losses if she went with the regular spelling. But I personally don't mind, especially now that I've learned a little bit about it. With Brian Cooper, who's the guy from 2005 that made this article, which is a very nice article, by the way. It has many, many spellings of the word vampire, like too many that I think it would fill up my my whole screen if I wanted to mention them. But it felt interesting, it felt new, and I feel like I would never have thought about it, like the origins of the word and what were like the original vampire creatures because they were not like bloodsuckers like we know today. They were like, I guess, the spirit of the dead. I'm not the best person to talk about it. And I think Ellie is very smart and she likes to bring smart stuff to the table. So I felt like even though Vampires with an Y were not like her smartest move, it was like a pretty smart move overall. So another thing that I felt was a huge DNR factor for a lot of people was the name of the main character because her name is Misery. And that is, pun intended, a miserable name. I feel like we've talked about this too much, especially in like the romantasy circle, it's so hard reading a book if you choose like a goofy name for your character, or that it, like if you just like do a mishmash of different sounds and no one can pronounce your name right because it's not from any place in the world, it's just like something you made up. And Bride has that problem, but like in a different situation. She chose to name her character literally Misery, and I guess there's plot about it. It is because the vampire council decides like the name of the vampires, and since Misery supposedly killed her mother on birth, she was named Misery. So her name is Misery Lark. But that is so weird. I think, I mean, just saying, if I were to invent a council of like horrible, horrible vampire leaders and they have bureaucracy, they have all of those things, I feel like they would give me a name that means misery, but it's less on the face misery. I don't think it makes sense that a vampire council came up with just misery for a name, especially since everyone else has like regular ass names. Like everyone else is called something like a name that exists. She's the only one that's named Misery. It feels like I gave birth to a child, and the vampire council is like, "Oh, congratulations! Now you have a child named Cupcake." I feel like the smart thing that they would do is to get a name that means misery, and that is not hard. Like I can again fill the page with 100 different names that are cool sounding, that are vampire sounding, and mean misery, you know? And this is not even a thing like, oh, but she's from like a different place, like, and that's why those names are different. She's in the US, she's in the United States. Her name is just Misery. That makes no sense. She could have chosen a different name. But, like I said, Anne Hazelwood is very, very smart. Would we talking that much about Pride if the main character name was not Misery? Because it's something that really makes the book stand out from other books. And since the book is like very funny, it makes fun of itself. It's not a book that takes itself seriously. The name Misery sounds like funny. It sounds like a fun choice, and it felt like something that the author made to bring some sort of lightness into it. Like the whole naming situation is very funny. Like in this book, we have a cat named Sparkles, and it's like a male old cat, like very grumpy cat, and that is like, oh, it's so cute. Like it's not what it was supposed to be. And then Misery makes a lot of jokes about, haha, now I'm bringing misery into your life and stuff. So I felt like it was a punchline. So the name itself, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's not supposed to be, oh no, someone really is named Misery. And they might. Like people give weird names to their child. There must be like a misery out there. But I feel like this was less of a serious thing she made for this book and more of a punchline to an ongoing joke. So I get it if you can't read a book that the main character is called Misery, but this is a funny book. So it's supposed to be funny that her name is Misery. So I don't know. This to me, I think it was like a lost opportunity. Like I don't know, maybe there's like another name out there that even I can think about that is that could have been made into a punchline. Like maybe Misery is her nickname. I feel like that would be better. I don't know. She's called, I can't think of an name. Like maybe she's called Michelle, and I don't know, Michelle with an S, like a weird spelling of Michelle. Also, if your name is Michelle with an S, I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of you. But like maybe she has like a weird name or just like a regular name, and her nickname is Misery. She could still make the Misery jokes, and we would not have to read Misery every couple pages. So I don't know. This one is lukewarm for me. Something else that was definitely a little weird for me specifically, this is something that I couldn't handle very well, were the different blood colors. So apparently, vampires bleed purple, humans bleed red, and werewolves bleed green. This is very weird. And since Ellie's like, oh, I will have like a scientific explanation for anything because she's so smart. She's a STEM girl, which also brings a lovely vibe to the book. This is something I love. She came up with like little explanations of why like things were different. Like she mentioned that like humans, werewolves, and vampires were both like they were all the same thing, and just like evolution made them different. And she talks about like what made the vampires be vampires, that they're not like actually dead or like cursed creatures. It's just like an evolutionary thing, which is very new and very fresh, for the whole vampire community. I know that there are takes where vampires are like they can have children and stuff, but they are usually regular humans that are turned vampires. And for her to bring a different take is very interesting. But I digress. The point is that blood is of different colors. That is a doozy for many, many reasons. So she mentions in the book that the werewolves bleed green, and because of that, they also blush green, which was very, very weird. I remember reading that, and I had to close the book for a moment, take a deep breath, and compose myself because it was so hard to imagine someone blushing green. And I don't think, I mean, I'm a green lover, I love green, but I don't think that sounds too attractive. Like, I'm sorry, it sounds weird, like someone blushing green. And then when I went to like see stuff about it on Reddit, a user, like I will put a picture of them over here, they just said, wow, I think Ailey forgot to mention the fact that if their blood is actually green, and if they blush green, then other things in their body would be green. And that's where it gets interesting because their lips were supposed to be green in color. And apparently, there's a description in the book. I'll get the accurate description where she mentions like the werewolves' lips becoming red, but they are not supposed to be red because their blood is not red. So every werewolf is supposedly should have green lips, and not only green lips, they were also supposed to have green nipples because nipples have the color of your blood, and if your blood is green, you are supposed to have green nipples. And I think you know where I'm going with this. Other things where blood flows a lot would be green tinted, and that is very interesting, Ali. uh, I don't think I can say too much about it. I don't want my video to get down, but green, really? Was it like blue? I could have gone with blue. I feel like blue would be like a more attractive color. I don't think I can handle green nipples. And I mean, this is just me like saying, like, of course, what this other person on Reddit was talking about, but this is not how it happens actually. Like, people, they seem to be like regular humans. They're just slightly green tinted, specifically when they blush and stuff. So I felt like she didn't took the time to actually think about it. I mean, she thought about it in the way that she said, "Oh, they have green blood, so they must blush green." But I feel like she should have taken like another moment to think about it and get in the conclusion that their nipples would be green. Uh, because I mean, with Misery being a vampire, I feel like since we know like from her POV, she would definitely have commented on the fact that people have green nipples because she makes comments about everything, in the werewolf situation. So I want to know, like, I actually want to know, like, do they have green nipples? I want this answer. So, still talking about green blood thing, I mean, this is a weird bit that Hazelwood put us through, but I also wanted to comment that this is not the weirdest thing that we have been put through in terms of vampire stuff. So, still talking about the green blood bit, I I wanted to say like this is not the weirdest thing that I have been put through in terms of vampire series and stuff because I'm not sure if y'all remember, but because Twilight vampires like shine in the light, Stephanie Meyer committed to the fact that they are actually made of stone. That's why in the movies they kind of break. And because they are made of stone, this is real. I will put facts in the description. When they kiss, it sounds like this. So in perspective, the green blood thing doesn't sound so weird right now. So one of the things that I feel like was my favorite about this book was the fact that the world building is very put together. I know a lot of people think that the beginning of the book is like a little bit of an info dump, and that the end like gets a lot of new information. Like we get like too much new information, and a lot of people are like, "No, please get me to the action. I want action." I am not this type of girl. I like my books to be heavy on the information. I like my books to be heavy on stuff. I know it can get boring, but I really like it. And I felt like the reason Hazelwood had to do this, along with like the new spelling of vampires and like the green werewolf blood and stuff, was because she wanted us to know that this is a new thing. Like, this is a new thing she created. This is a new universe. And then she's not like expecting you to know about it. So I feel like the reason people hated the world building was, one, because it is too much and it takes a little bit of the action, and two, because we already know so much about vampires. Like, we know so much about vampires. We grew up on vampires. Like, if you're a vampire fan, even if you're not a vampire fan, I feel like you know a lot about it. And werewolves are like the next big thing. Like, I have read hundreds of werewolf books. We just know too much lore. Like, we know most of the concepts. Like, you don't have to explain to me a concept of a maid. I know the concept of a maid. I know the concept of like having those werewolves that they can smell and stuff, and bloodlust and vampires. We know all of those things, so it felt like she was trying to teach us something that we already know. But I feel like what she was actually trying to do was to present us with a new universe. So since it's been like a long time since I've actually read something like werewolf or vampire related, I enjoyed it, but I feel like if you're like a big time vampire fan, you will get bored of like the explanations. So I feel like that's why it was a bit of a hit or miss, because since this was Hazelwood's first like supernatural book, she caught a lot of her fans that are used to like her regular stuff that is like not supernatural. So when they got on it, they were like, "Oh, this is nice. It's a supernatural thing." But if you are a supernatural girly and you come to it, you may find that it's not maybe as good as some of like the super classic vampire werewolf books. But in the end, this book doesn't take itself so seriously, and I don't think neither should you. Clearly a goofy book. The main character's name is Misery. It's supposed to be fun. So, to finish this video and give you my final rating of this book, I wanted to go on a little bit of a rant about like how I personally judge books. Since I've read like a lot of books, and I think I've read a little bit of everything at this point, sometimes it feels weird to me to say, "Oh, this is a five-star book," especially if I'm comparing it to something that's like quote unquote life changing. Like, how can I compare Akatar with Pride and Prejudice? Like, Pride and Prejudice is always going to be a five-star read for me. That makes Akatar like sound a little worse. So what I try to do, because books are entertainment, is to rate them like in categories. And I've seen this. This is not like my original idea. This was something that I also saw on Tumblr. People talk about like how books have this type of nutritional value. So if you can read like a book that is like life changing and it's delicious, like for me that would be broccoli, because I love broccoli. It has a like, it's very nutrient dense and it's a good for you, and it's also delicious. But sometimes like those really harsh book, like those philosophical sad books, like are so good for your mind, but they are hard to eat in the same way that I feel like vegetables are hard to eat. Even if you're an adult, like some things are really, really hard to eat. And then there are foods that have like a low nutritional value but are awesome as snacks. So no one can live only on snacks or only on healthy food. Like you need to have a good balance of those. Sometimes you need to eat a piece of white bread. Sometimes you need to eat a cookie. Sometimes you need to eat broccoli. So I feel like there's a good balance that you can achieve by reading these two types of books. And when I say that, I don't mean to say that this book is like dumb or useless. I'm just saying that it's not supposed to be a book that changes your whole life way of thinking. It's supposed to be a book that you enjoy. It's supposed to be entertainment. So I'm rating this book as I would rate a funny book because it's so funny. I had so much fun with it. It's supposed to be a book that you read on the beach or like you go to the park and you enjoy it. So it's supposed to be an enjoyable book. It's supposed to be a snack and it is a delightful snack. So comparing it to other snack books, then I found this book to be very, very, very good. When I first read it, it was a 5 star for me. But then I read Mate, and Mate was so good that I had to take a little bit out of Bride. So Bride is 4.5 jars of peanut butter to me because Mate is 5. So the answer to is Bride a goofy book? Yes, it is a goofy book, but it is a goofy book on purpose. And if you want to read something goofy, please read Bride. I promise you will not be disappointed. And if you are, well, I can't do anything about it, but I really, really like it. So that was my opinion on it. Well, that was my opinion on Bride by Ailey Hazelwood. Thank you so much for coming this far and watching this video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more rants from me, and like if you like this video. I would also love to read your comments about Bride, especially if you think she should have made the werewolves have green nipples. I need to talk to someone about this, and I don't think my therapist can deal with me anymore. So please leave your comments. Thank you so much again. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye. So I didn't have time to come up with an actual vampire costume. I wanted to buy like the fake teeth, but they look uncomfortable. So you can pretend that this is like day off vampire. Like I am a vampire, but I'm on my day off, so I don't have anything that makes me look like a vampire except my general vibe. This is what I'm going for.